Do you have a lot of tension in your neck and shoulders? Do you also sit at a desk for most of the day? Many think their posture is the only thing to blame, but what if I told you it isn't your posture's fault? In this video, I'll share the secrets to relieving that chronic neck tension without having to spend thousands of dollars on a fancy ergonomical chair. So what's the secret? It's more movement. The truth is, your posture doesn't really matter as long as you know how to offset those positions with the right exercises, especially throughout the day, which I'll show you two of my favorites in a moment. But before we dive in, I have to share with you the analogy of the postural bank account. I tell my patients all the time to think of their posture as a bank account. So we have our withdrawals and our deposits. When we're in these prolonged forward flexion dominant positions, especially if we work at a desk or we have long commutes, think of those positions as withdrawing from our bank account. Now, if you don't do anything to offset these postures, then you'll keep withdrawing until you overdraft, and that's when you have to see someone like me in person. But if we're smart about this, if we know we're gonna be in certain postures, if we're gonna make withdrawals from that account, then we just have to be smart and put deposits in on the other side, so we're always breaking even or even making out better than before. So as mentioned, I'm gonna show you two moves, the second being my favorite, so make sure to stay tuned for that one. So let's dive into our first movement. So the reason why posture tends to get the blame is because when we hang out in these positions, we tend to sink in them over and over again, especially if we're not doing anything in the opposite direction. And that just tends to put strain on the muscles and joints. So if you have that chronic tension in your neck and shoulders, then this is one of the go-to exercises you need to do and sprinkle in throughout your day. What tends to deplete those funds? Again, these forward flexion based positions. So first we're gonna do is sit up nice and tall, almost like someone's pulling us from a string. And then the first part of the movement is we're gonna go chin towards the back of our throat. Almost like we're giving ourselves a double chin here, and that's gonna help elongate the spine. And then from there, you simply just drop your head back. When you drop your head back, you're just noting for if you have any tension or pain, because you don't wanna plow through anything if there's discomfort there. So if I'm doing this movement, I go chin in, fall back, I start to feel tension right around here, I give it a smooch, bring it right back up. I'm gonna rep out a good 10 of those, seeing if I can go further and further each rep. So chin in, look back, I can start to go a little bit further, give it a smooch, come back, and simply rinse and repeat. Now this is an intermediate neck mobility exercise, so if there's a little bit of pinching or discomfort, especially when looking up towards the ceiling, then you would just simply regress it to this simple chin tuck, or we call it a chin retraction, where we would just go chin towards the back of the throat. Sometimes you can feel some tension through this area, which is totally normal, and you just want to bust out a good 10 of those. Now, if you've never done either of these two movements, sometimes you can get away with loosening it with 5 of these retractions, and then we can go into that retraction plus that cervical extension and get the best of both of those stretches. Now this is so stinking easy. You could do it in the chair, you could do it standing up. You can at least do the chin tucks in the car while you're driving if you have a long commute. So there's no excuses not to balance out your postural bank account with this easy move. Now for my A+ students, again, if you're here for at least 8 hours a day, then you need to be doing this every hour. Even if it's just 5 reps, that continuous movement over and over again is gonna make sure our account stays nice and balanced, so again, we don't keep overdrafting. And for those that are my C+ students, then you would at least wanna do 10 of these every 2 to 3 hours. So as long as you're giving me 30 to 50 throughout your workday, you're gonna keep things in balance and you're gonna start to feel better overall, especially within a couple weeks if you have that chronic neck tension. Now that was the first move. The second move I'm gonna show you is one of my all-time favorite movements for overall posture. So the first one was specific to the neck and a little bit of the upper back here. That's where a lot of this postural pain or tension seems to come from. The next one, we're gonna get a little bit of full spinal movement. So if you look at this, we call this the C position. I want you to think of C for catastrophe, because again, that'll overdraft that account. And we wanna get into more of an S posture for safety. So what you can do is, if this is my starting position, I'm gonna start hands on my thighs here. I'm gonna drive elbows behind me as I bring heart out in front of me. That's part 1. And then the next part is doing that chin tuck that I showed you with the first exercise. So I go chin back, chest out, elbows behind me, and I'm getting that nice S posture and off balancing those postural stresses. So same as I mentioned before, you could do a good 10 of these. If you have any discomfort, just give it a smooch and then come right back. Same thing where we'd want to do these every hour for my A+ students, but at the bare minimum, you'd want to do 10 of these every 2 to 3 hours. And my favorite move is combining both movement 1 and movement 2. So when we're doing this, again, chin back, chest out, elbows behind, and then when you're here, you can start to look up towards the ceiling and get a nice little neck stretch at the same time. And then you want to do all those movements at the same time. So it would be one fluid motion like this. Again, with any movement I ever show you, if you have any pain, pinching, discomfort, just give it a smooch, go within your safe range, and as you start to practice this over a couple day period, things will start to loosen up. And usually after the 2-week rule, where if you do something consistently for 2 weeks, you should start to break through and you'll notice those big changes, again, especially for people with chronic tension. So those are 2 of my favorite moves that require no equipment, and of course you could just do them while you're sitting, which is where a lot of these postural stresses come from. So as long as you're staying consistent and putting some deposits into the account, you're just gonna naturally have withdrawals each and every day. That's where it all comes into keeping it into balance. And luckily you don't have to do as many movements to offset prolonged positions. Usually it takes 5 reps an hour or 10 reps every few hours to make sure you're in balance and you're not overdrafting and again having to see someone like me. So your homework is to add one of these 2 movements to your routine every day this week. And at the end of the week, I want you to let me know in the comments how you're feeling and if that movement was right for you. Also, if you're having any pinching in the front side of your hip right here, let me tell you, it's not your hip flexor, and check out this video to find out why.